Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast, as we're now going to be diving into last night's MLB action, which was an absolute thriller between the New York Mets and the Milwaukee Brewers, where this series as a whole, it's a shame we only got 3 games of it because the back and forth, the momentum shifts, it was just everything that playoff baseball is about. And again, it's just a little bit unfortunate that we got this game in the first round. But all that, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. And last night we saw another really intriguing turn of events. It was a pitcher's duel throughout the first 7 innings before it was the Milwaukee Brewers striking first in that 7th inning, where Pat Murphy puts in Jake Bauers as a pinch hitter, and immediately it does pay dividends for them. Hits a home run to the second deck in right field, a solo shot, and as the crowd is still on their feet celebrating the go-ahead run, you have Sal Frelick, the Massachusetts kid. He squares up the next pitch and follows that up with a shot of his own, practically to the same spot in right field in that second deck. So that was an electric moment there. And then at that point, things could have spiraled out of control. Something that is sort of flying a little bit under the radar, at least to some degree. I thought it was an interesting decision of Carlos Mendoza to use Edwin Diaz in that 7th inning. And I love the decision. I just don't think that he's getting the credit for it, because that game felt like it was almost on the brink of really spiraling out of control for the Mets there, where at that point, I believe it was, and I got to double check here, it was, technically it was Diaz who put runners back on base as he walked Bryce Terang. But, that thing could have continued to get out of hand for them. They bring in Edwin Diaz. He closes that one out. So, all good there. On the other side, you have another, I thought, a very good decision as well, where we see Pat Murphy call on Freddie Peralta, and this is, a couple days after there was a little bit of controversy where Murphy ended up pulling Peralta a little bit early. That's when the Mets, I think it was the 5th inning, where they rattled off 5 runs with 2 outs. That's when that occurred. So again, that was a little bit of a controversial decision then. Murphy seems like pulling out all the stops to be able to set up a clean game, and he does very quickly work through the side of the order there for the Mets. And then we get to the 9th inning, where Devin Williams, one of the best closers in the MLB, feels like it should be a little bit of a shoo-in, and yet that's not how playoff baseball works. You can ask the Astros about that, where we saw Ryan Presley and Josh Hader fall apart with the game on the line on Wednesday. And it definitely doesn't help when you're tipping your pitches, which is obviously another huge plot point in this game, is that the Mets were sort of teeing off of the fact that Devin Williams in his glove was tipping his pitches, and ultimately they dig themselves out of that 2-0 hole in the top of the 9th inning. You see Francisco Lindor with a great plate appearance. He draws a walk. You have Brandon Nimmo hit a single as well to put a couple runners on, and it is Pete Alonso stepping up to the plate in a situation where that could have been his last ever plate appearance with the Mets had things gone wrong for them. This is coming off of the inning prior where he ended up dropping a pop-up, and it felt like, wow, is this really how his Mets tenure is going to end? And he said, not so fast. Again, a little bit of a tipping of the pitches there, but hey, you just got to play cleaner baseball if you are Devin Williams in that situation. And he has probably the defining moment of his career with a 3-run home run to take the Mets from despair to celebration. And ultimately, the Mets hold on, win that game. Now, a little bit extra insurance as well, where it's Jesse Winker getting his look back a little bit where he was able to end up scoring as well. You see the spike of the helmet. I mean, the emotions obviously for him in this series supercharged with the booing throughout the entire series, especially following the chirping that was going on between him and Willy Adames. So that was just an excellent playoff game, and this series just continued to deliver game in and game out. So phenomenal stuff. The Mets move on to face the Phillies in the National League Divisional Series. So again, feel sorry for Brewers fans to some degree. Don't know how much you want to hear me throw you a pity party at this point. You already understand the situation there. I guess we're just going to dive into the divisional series now, where I want to look at Mets versus Phillies. Going to be another very emotionally charged series there, where somehow the first ever postseason matchup between these two division rivals. I don't think that regular season matchups are all too, important to keep in mind of, but that being said, you have a 7-6 Phillies advantage during the regular season, and the biggest thing that tells me is, this is going to be a back and forth type of series that should be a ton of fun to watch. Now, we don't know who is going to start for the Mets game one. This is a situation where it's probably going to be David Peterson. Now, he was called upon for that 9th inning to close out the game just last night. So he'll have a day's rest. He only threw something like 13 pitches. Might have been less than that as well. I can do a quick double check here, but it will probably be Peterson 8 pitches, so even less. So he should probably be good to go, I would imagine, on Saturday afternoon. He's going to be faced off against Zach Wheeler. Pretty straightforward there. Now, a little bit interesting with the Phillies and the fact that we don't know, at least as of yet. I don't believe I can do one last double check here, but it appears that the Phillies haven't listed a Game 2 starter just yet. Traditionally, it would probably be Aaron Nola, but the thought process as of right now is that Christopher Sanchez has much better splits at home than he does away. So could see a little bit of gamesmanship there from the Phillies to try and, make adjustments and best utilize their starting pitching there. So, again, doing a quick double check here, but the Wi-Fi isn't really working with me in terms of who's going to start this game. I don't know if it's listed. So, again, from what it sounds like, this is very possibly going to be a situation where we see Christopher Sanchez in Game 2, then we're going to see Aaron Nola on the road in New York, Game 3. Either way, three big-time pitchers for the Phillies, and they are going to need them because this is a situation, obviously, under this new playoff format and the bye. There is so much conversation about, can the offenses keep up after having this much time off? Phillies might take them a little bit of an adjustment period to get going in this one, so we'll see about that. I think they are going to need production out of their starting pitching, and I think that this is the Phillies series to win. Don't feel good about picking against the Miracle Mets as things currently stand, the team that just refuses to die, but if I had to pick right now, I think I would lean with the Phillies. I just think that the talent is in their favor. But, again, momentum is a heck of a thing, especially in the MLB playoffs. So, going to be a very fun series. The National League in general, I think, is going to be incredible from here on out, because on that other side of the National League bracket, you have another set of divisional rivals in the San Diego Padres versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. Just a loaded matchup in terms of, the talent that is on both of these rosters. And there is clearly some tough news with the Padres that Joe Musgrove is likely going to be out for the series. He came out early in Game 2 during the 4th inning due to elbow tightness in his throwing arm. So we'll see about that. Again, likely to be out. But on the bright side, the Padres are at least a little bit deeper. They still have three starters that are more than capable. It's going to be Dylan Cease in Game 1, Yu Darvish in Game 2, and they haven't officially announced it. I'd have to imagine it's going to be Michael King in Game 3. Dodgers, their current lineup as things stand, maybe a little bit of a surprise. Yoshinobu Yamamoto for Game 1, giving the ball to Jack Flaherty in Game 2 to take the mound. So, again, maybe a little bit of a surprise there, but for all intents and purposes, two very high-quality starters there. Yoshinobu, also, of course, making his postseason debut here, so will be really fun to watch him do so in Game 1. And then it's probably going to be Walker Buehler in Game 3. Between these two pitching staffs, I'd probably give, especially when you consider the bullpen, but I would lean with the Padres in this situation. Now, you do have Cease, who has only had one postseason start, and he got lit up in that one. That was against the Astros in 2021. So, we'll have to see. There is some unproven there, but I think at this point, Cease is seasoned enough that he should be okay. Now, I am definitely keeping an eye on and fascinated by what we're going to see from the Dodgers' big three, of course, in Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, and Freddie Freeman. Last year, a little bit of a similar situation where the Dodgers had to bye in the first round, and when it came time to play, Mookie and Freddie were ice cold. Mookie, 0 hits and 12 plate appearances, did draw 1 walk. On the other hand, Freddie, a little bit better, 1 hit and 2 walks in 12 plate appearances, but they struggled 100%, and there was obviously in that defining game, backs against the wall in Game 3, they both struck out in the 8th inning in a 2-run game with a runner on first. So that's a moment that they've been both replaying throughout the past month. So it'll be very interesting to see if they are able to shake off the rust a lot sooner. Plus you have Shohei Ohtani, which is a huge difference maker there. But that being said, I picked the Padres, coming into the playoffs, and just the way that their offense continues to produce, I am optimistic about their pitching, even without Joe Musgrove. I am going to be sticking with my pick of the Padres moving forward here. Quickly here on the American League, Royals versus Yankees. This is another similar situation where it's going to be very interesting to monitor the offensive production early on in this series from the Yankees, who had the bye, because that's kind of what they are solely built on, is having the power behind their bats. And this is a situation where they come into a series against the Royals, who maybe weren't anticipated to be here, but either way, the pitching with this Royals team is just so elite that you're not going to be able to luck into runs, I don't think. Now, the other side of that as well is that the Royals need to be able to produce more offensively than what they got against the Orioles. 3 runs in 2 games, that's not going to cut it. Maybe you can get away with 1 pitcher's duel, but you need more production from the offense, and I think that they are capable of it, especially against a Yankees rotation that I don't love, but also I didn't love outside of Corbin Burns, who, deservingly so, shut them down. It's not like I don't think that the Orioles are necessarily this elitely talented pitching team, at least given the injuries that occurred with them as well. And then final thoughts here, Tigers versus Guardians. I'm having a really hard time sort of leaning either direction in this series. I think, ESPN and the broadcast crew there kept calling the Tigers situation pitching chaos, and that was ultimately what got it done for them against the Astros. I think it's going to be like that a little bit on both sides of this game, where neither one of them, the Tigers have the advantage of at least having a Tarek Skubal, who is a legitimate ace. At least as these teams are currently constructed with injuries, it's just kind of a situation. I think it's going to be very reliant on the bullpen, going deep, and, which one of these offenses are going to be able to step up for them. I'm riding with the Tigers and the hot hand in this one, but if you disagree, let me know in the comment section. But we are going to be shifting gears back to the NFL now, so we're going to be talking about some of the top storylines ahead with Week 5, so we're going to be diving into that. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back.